So welcome to the College Football Hall of Fame's HBCU 365 Women's History Month series. Today we are so excited to be joined by Tiffany Green. She's a play-by-play commentator for ESPN and the first African-American woman to serve in that role. Tiffany has her degree in broadcast journalism from Florida A&M University, and I just found out she is also a Florida native, Central Florida, so glad we have that in common. And I just welcome, and thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Really enjoy being on here with you, Kim, and great chatting before we started this recording. So looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. So, I figured today we're going to talk, women in sports, because that's an obvious one. I really want to talk about the importance of HBCUs, not only within the scope of college football, but within the fabric of our country and the values that HBCUs instill. And then obviously some college football, because we have to. I say I get paid to talk smack, so we have to go there. Yeah. So, and who knows what else will come up. So, beyond your bio, and I've read so much of, the sports you cover, and obviously Florida A&M, and that you're still serving the university as co-chair, of the school, which is of the School of Journalism, which is amazing. But beyond the bio, tell me a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got your start.
So I was your unconventional kid growing up, according to my mom, who is, very much pretty, prim, and proper. I was the one who was always ready to get down and dirty with sports. I loved it. It spoke a different language to me. And for me, sports was the great kind of equalizer, one. Two, it was the greatest, tool that I could use outside of my parents' household to learn about life. Right?
Yeah.
And all the different walks of life that you come across. So sports spoke to me at a very young age, stayed really committed to it, wanted to play basketball, knew that wasn't a possibility when my folks told me that I was not going to play in college. So I got a bowling scholarship one time. Thank you, Title IX, for that, equaling out the sports.
Stop. Bowling?
Bowling.
Have you ever bowled a perfect game?
I have not bowled a perfect game.
Okay,
I'm still searching. In fact, today, taking my son to the bowling alley. So, there's always another chance there.
Always another chance. If you gave me bumpers, the bumpers, I might.
You'd be set. And ready to go. So, but I believed in, really being a well-rounded person and being involved in a number of different things. So I take my civic engagement and organization very seriously, with the Links Incorporated and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, serving in my church as well, the National Association of Black Journalists. All those different pockets speak to who I am as a person. And I believe that the more that you can interface with people and the more relationships that you can build, the better you will be.
Absolutely. And that is something I've learned along the way in my career as well. You pick up people, and you pick up stories, and you pick up inspiration, and you just carry it with you and then share it, right? It's not just, it's much like what we do here. It's, yes, we're supposed to keep the history and keep the stories of our Hall of Famers, but if we don't share them, what's the point, right? We have to inspire people, because these are truly some inspirational people that we have the honor of celebrating every day, which is pretty cool. You've worked for ESPN for quite a while and covered quite a few sports. So tell me, what are some of your favorite moments?
Oh man, there are a number of, I feel like, kind of crowning moments. I really enjoyed this past college football season for a number of reasons. One, because of the greater platform that we saw HBCUs placed on, the attention that it garnered, and to your point of speaking of the history and remembering those, I think more people got an education on how awesome HBCUs have been and continue to be. So I was proud to be just a part of that uplift and uprise for HBCUs. Something that was personal to me, I'll be honest, since I went to FAMU and our in-state rival Bethune-Cookman had had our number for 9 straight years. Got to be on the call once again, this time on the other side. So that was pretty
awesome.
exciting.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm a fourth generation FAMU Rattler. So it's ingrained deep in me. And I loved being a part of that call. I would say WNBA coverage. That's been a joy and a pleasure, and helping to open the season last year on ESPN. And softball. Lastly, I'm going to say softball. Why? Because it always creates these really like cool moments, these like bone-chilling, hair-raising moments when you're in it. And the softball community is so strong and so tight-knit. And it was the Texas A&M Florida series, and this was going to send one team to the Women's College World Series, and Florida won it in walk-off fashion with a youngster in the lineup driving a bomb out. So it was fun to be on the call in those moments, because yes, I am a commentator and I'm doing my job, but I'm also a fan, enjoying and appreciating these student athletes and athletes.
Yeah. So I want to shift gears a little bit, because you brought up softball, and I don't want to get too personal, but so my daughter's a softball player. She's 11, and I can tell that when you talk about how sports speaks to you, that you're probably super competitive. And then you mentioned taking your son bowling. So how challenging do you find it, having, being so immersed in the sports world, and then having to go be a parent and in the sports world? Because I need a job. That's what I've said. Let me keep score. Give me something to do, because if I don't, I'm going to get in trouble.
So super competitive for sure. My husband, the same. To that bowling story, we were engaged. We went bowling. I whipped him up pretty bad. We didn't talk for 3 days. So that speaks to the competitiveness that both of us have. And with that, I think we have 2 boys, 5 and 1. And so I'm going to wait to see how interested they are, because naturally I'm like, oh man, I hope he's into sports like we are. Our default like television station is ESPN, or is watching a game. Like that's what we do. I think my oldest, maybe not so much interested right now. He's kind of getting into soccer. My youngest may be showing signs, but still really, really early. Sure. So I'm trying to take a different approach than the way I think both my husband and I feel about it. He used to officiate, he used to coach at the high school level. Yeah. So we're really, really into sports. And I think my oldest son is helping us to dial that back a little bit in terms of what we project onto him.
It's hard. The struggle's real. I absolutely agree with that. And so to your point about how the default TV station is always ESPN, we are the same. And unless golf is on. So my husband is a big golfer, and my daughter filled out a Mother's Day questionnaire when she was 3. And and so if you think about the time frame of Mother's Day, it's May, and so the Masters and a lot of big golf tournaments had been on, and she said I was 15. Loved that, thank you very much. And then she said that my favorite thing to watch on TV was golf. And it was. It's just because it was always on. So, yeah. So.
I love that. That's very cool.
Yep, they're observant. So, but I like the 15 too.
Mm-hmm. Good one. See, that's love. That's love.
It is unconditional. Absolutely. So I had a question I was going to ask you how you decided on FAMU, but you just said 4th generation. So I'd rather hear a little bit more about that. And I mean, that just sounds like FAMU is so important to your entire family.
Yeah, it means so very much. So my great-grandmother graduated in 1908 when it was the State Normal College for Colored Students. And throughout, my grandparents, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, like cousins, everyone seemed to have flocked to FAMU, and if not FAMU, then an HBCU. And I thought I was going to be rebellious as the youngest and say, oh no, I'm gonna go, somewhere else. And I looked at some other HBCUs that I was interested in. And my parents said, okay, that's no problem. But let me tell you where my money's going. And let me tell you the benefits of going to FAMU. Now, it was always in my heart. I bleed orange and green. I've always done that. I've been around the school, the atmosphere, games, alumni, So to me, it was commonplace. It was family. And when I went to FAMU, I felt very much that feeling of family and that pride, that unabashed pride that we have, I feel like is so special. And when you lock into something like that, you don't want to ever let it go. And so I decided to come to my senses and say, yeah, FAMU is the place for me. And it was pretty sweet deal because I had gotten scholarships.
Because you got a bowling scholarship.
I got the bowling scholarship. I had academic scholarships.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like getting paid to go to school. I was getting a little change on the side.
Okay, I see what you...
This is golden, but I was glad that I didn't try to be too, too much out of the mold. And because I believe in legacy and tradition, and I believe in following in that, because there is strength to it. And there's kind of like a foundation that was set. And I'm grateful for the foundation that my parents and grandparents and great grandmother set for me to be able to go to FAMU.
That's an amazing story. Great grandma, that is incredible. I love it. I love it. So you talked earlier about the various organizations that you're involved with, and my guess is along the way that you had encountered some mentors, and you probably still have some that you identify. And it sounds to me like you're probably mentoring now as you move forward. But how important, especially here we sit in Women's History Month, was and is mentorship to your career and really to you personally, because we're not just professionals.
Right. I feel like it's critical, right? Like I believe in, my mom always said, there's always someone better than you, and there was always someone who may not be as well off as you. So you have to find your way. But sometimes you need someone to hold your hand, and you need other voices outside of your family members. And I feel like that's where mentors can come in and fill the gap. So for me, I always attempted to identify people growing up before I even was, kind of searching for someone professionally, just personally. And there were women that I saw within my church, within my, my mom's sorority, which then later I became a member of, that I was just like, wow, these women are dynamic. They are wonderful. And they helped me to dream. They gave me something to aspire to,
and permission.
Yeah. It gave me permission to say, okay, yes, I can walk in this and I can do this. And they were always incredibly kind and supportive. And so I think that helps along the way, especially when I was into sports and I was into video games and I was into cars, and maybe not some of the conventional things that they, used to be associated with just, women, men, girls, guys. They were always so kind and supportive. I played the drums in the band, and they were like, rah, go for it. You do it.
In the FAMU band?
No, honey, I wish. In the high school band. In my high school's band. If I was a part of the Marching 100, man, I would have had some extra stripes added on me, because, the Marching 100, top notch, second to none.
Yeah.
And so then professionally, I kind of continued that same idea of reaching out to women that I felt like I could identify with. First, I used to just email people and just say, hey, how you doing? Or call people or write letters. Okay, so I was a part of that letter writing generation too. Hey, I'm introducing myself. When I come into town, I'd like to know you or get to meet you. So I'll name drop a little bit here, because there were both men and women that helped. Robin Roberts has been my shero forever. So I remember her at ESPN, met her through the National Association of Black Journalists conference when it was here in Tampa. I had everything prepared to go up to talk to her and say, hi, my name is Tiffany Green, and I'm such a big fan of yours. And when I got to her, I had to wait till she finished speaking. I got pushed out of pictures. I was just like, okay. I walked out of the room, so I missed my opportunity. And then I called a friend, and I'm a big Jay-Z fan. And so she was like, what would Jay-Z do? Because he has this kind of...
Yeah, what would Jay-Z do? I like that. WWJZD. There we go.
Indeed. And so I liked his confidence, and I tried to kind of funnel that into my return and approach. And with nobody in the room, I go up to her and say, "Hi, Robin." Hi. And I just start crying uncontrollably. So much so that basically she'd nicknamed me Waterfalls from that point forward because I couldn't stop crying because I was in awe. So she is one who we keep in touch. She's now my soror as well. So we keep in touch. Jamel Hill has been great, but then there are a lot of people along the way that are not necessarily mentors, but folks who really helped to aid in my career, who were willing to take the time to talk with me, to take a chance. Maureen Hassett, Lindsay, and Tina Thornton. Those are individuals who really helped me along my way and gave me a face and a greater presence within the company because they just took that extra time.
That's awesome. And again, reaching back to pull people up and not pulling the ladder up behind you, because and I have encountered women that do that they just think, they think they got there on their own, so and they didn't. None of us do.
No. There's a song that says, and excuse the song, but the grammar rather, it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Like, the idea is that you want everyone to join your party, or those who you see are working hard like you, who are talented, who are driven. You want them to receive the same opportunities and even better opportunities than you did. So that's what we're here for. It's no good if it's a party of one. If you want to go further, you go together, right?
Absolutely.
There's plenty of room at the table for everyone to eat. That's my point.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I know you said you had sons. I have a daughter. She's 11, and the pressure of that piece too, of being a role model and really wanting to inspire her, to your point, to do better, to have more, to really just continue to inspire her, and make sure she meets other really incredibly inspiring people. So thank you for that. So speaking of young women, what advice would you give young women, considering HBCUs and considering a career in journalism?
Well, I would say my first thought when you ask that question, and it doesn't matter what field you go into, it's that you said it earlier, giving yourself permission. I say it as you are enough, right? There are a number of different distractions and outside noises that try to tell you otherwise, but knowing that you are enough is really important, and to me it's foundational, and it doesn't come overnight, and it's not something that everyone is born with. I can tell you, even as a fairly confident individual, I still had to be reminded of that. And how did I remind myself? I gave myself affirmations to read every morning, yelling out in the car, saying it in the mirror. I'm also a woman of faith, so I leaned on that as well to help root me and ground me when my confidence was shaken, right? My ego was bruised because people in television and the world of journalism can be really tough. And they can, I'm going to say it like I would tell it to my, kids. They're just not nice. There's some people out there that are not nice.
Nice.
Period. And so you have to then develop, a thick skin in the process, but that is not a process that always feels good. So you are enough. That's first and foremost. If you decide to choose an HBCU or whatever institution you go to, obviously you have to feel like it's the right fit. What attracts me to an HBCU, and what I think attracts a number of other students around the world to HBCUs, is the fact that it feels like a family. Right? Your professors and administrators are like your aunts and uncles. You're not just a number. You are valued, you are seen, you are encouraged to use your voice. You are really sharpened by this collective of great minds that are just as smart, if not smarter than you. some of the time you learn that in the case of historically Black colleges and universities, sometimes the knock is that it's not diverse enough. And I counter that with Black people are not a monolith, right? So I can tell you from a regional perspective within the United States, a Black person who's coming from California is very different from one who comes from Texas or Florida or the Northeast. Then you add the international flair, the Caribbean is different from, Canada or Africa or England. Everything from those experiences kind of meld together into this great space. But what you do get is an affirmation that your history and the richness that lies within it, that is something to be proud of. And it is something that you can use as kind of like a part of your armor as you go out into the real world. So I think it's an invaluable experience when you go to an HBCU. And I'm glad to see yet again a resurgence in so many young people interested in HBCUs.
So we had the opportunity, and so thankful for our partner Southern Company that came alongside us last June. Well, we started it earlier than that, but last Juneteenth, we opened our Celebrating HBCUs exhibit. And we'd had an HBCU exhibit in the building, but really knew that we wanted to do more and showcase more. And Southern Company came alongside and gave us the funding to do that. And so the night of the Black College Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony that was here, we opened the new, or cut the ribbon on the new exhibit, and it has been so well received. And I've learned so much, right? And I think giving that opportunity for visitors that come to our building to learn a lot about, even a little bit about that rich history that you just talked about is amazing.
And that exhibit is awesome. So I got a chance to see it, I think it was in December.
Okay.
During the Celebration Bowl.
Celebration Bowl, yes.
Yes, and so I had a chance to check it out and the expansion of it. It's awesome. But like if you, I'm sorry, I'm gonna talk football for a second, but like
let's go.
But if you put the all-time HBCU greats against the all-time non-HBCU greats, right? I'm going to put my money on the HBCUs. I'm going to put them on Jerry Rice. I'm going to put them on Walter Payton. I'm going to put them on Michael Stray. And I'm going to... Steve McNair. I mean, I'm going to put my money over there. And you could say otherwise, and maybe it's evening out, or maybe there's some bias there, but that list is pretty stacked.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly impressive. And then from the coaching standpoint, if Eddie Robinson is coaching that team,
right,
my money's there. No, I agree with you for sure. So I asked about some of your favorite moments. I also know that as the first female president and CEO of the College Football Hall of Fame, I have had some less than favorite moments. And so if you're willing to share, some of those or one of those and kind of the lesson learned from that, I think it'd be great.
I'll generalize here because there are a long list, as you well know, just during your time. You can go back to the backhanded comments, because everyone always has something to say about your appearance. It's in a subjective business, right? And how women are supposed to look and thus act in certain arenas. And so I'll never forget when I was an intern with both WFLA in Tampa and then also went to WNBC in New York. And, that was at the time where women weren't really allowed in the locker rooms, but they were allowed into locker rooms, but they just weren't welcomed, right? Because remember Pam Oliver and the sideline reporters, Andrew, they had to deal with that. I walked in, and as a college student, even then I felt like the men were testing me. They're just, out and Clearance Day, showcasing or being comfortable in their locker room and almost challenging me to see, where was I going to look? Where do my eyes go? And funny enough, I'm the one who draws the attention in the locker room, and then people are cued in just to see what you're going to do and how you're going to respond, as if I'm going to go, whoa, wow, this is so great to see. I mean, I don't know what I anticipate.
Or or you're going to run out screaming. No.
Right. Or I'm going to be afraid. So I thought that was one of those early tests that I encountered as a Black woman, obviously calling games in certain parts of the country, kind of like, man, they're just letting anybody up in here. Like, who are you? So there wasn't a welcomed feeling from the staff, but I also knew where I was. Funny enough, that crew and one person in particular who made it incredibly uncomfortable and said a number of things and wasn't really helpful in trying to get me my information, for the game, now they asked to work with me.
You say no?
I mean, sometimes they're hired and I can't help it. But on the times where I do have a say and I can pick and check and select and choose or give a good word, I remember. I remember that feeling. And it was the most sinking feeling because it was among my first football games that I was calling for the network. And it was on ESPN Plus. So it was low exposure, but I was just so geeked up and excited. And then my balloon was totally deflated when nobody felt like they wanted to work with me and they felt like I didn't deserve or earn the opportunity to call this game. That played with my head throughout the entire broadcast. I'm not going to lie to you. So it's just a number of things, or, this kind of superwoman badge that women tend to carry. And
Yes.
Then you do all of the hard work or the sweat equity. And I'll never forget this, when I was working in local television, I'd cover the Gators all season long in their national championship run. That was when Tim Tebow was there. And I would drive to Gainesville and I would shoot with this 30-pound camera on my shoulder, going around Ben Hill Griffin Stadium and do everything as the one-man band, right? Edit, shoot.
I like to call that God's country.
Right. Are you a Gator? Oh boy. Wait, we've got to talk after this.
Okay.
I was just covering your Florida Gators last night for softball. But for the SEC championship and then later the national championship, I didn't get the assignment. So I risked my life and my safety driving back at 3 a.m. in the morning to turn a package around and get back there. I, put my body through something that I felt pretty grueling, shooting a football game. And I didn't get, and then I was with them all season long. And then I didn't get the opportunity and I was overlooked for my male counterpart. And maybe it was just one of those things where it was seniority. I won't wholly put it on being a woman, but certainly I was trying to be a superwoman and get that opportunity. And I felt like it was handed over to somebody else who did not have anything to do with it.
Yeah, that's tough. But I like also what you said. You tried to find some perspective and then use it and take that. And I think that in those moments, what you said earlier is what I go back to. And you talk about the affirmations. You are enough, right? This isn't about you, it's about them. And you are enough, I'm enough. And yeah, mom, daughter, friend, professional, it's tough, but we don't have to be super women. We're just super at what we do.
Yes, I like that.
All right, well, on that note, I'm gonna let you go, and this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And next time you're in Atlanta, please let me know. I'd love to meet you in person and talk a little smack, right?
Yeah.